Hello, everyone. So, this is kind of a brand new series I just started because I want you to meet all the When Stories speakers, people who shared their personal stories on stage and how it connects to what they do now. So, Glenn is also a former client of mine who signed up for When Stories. So, I'd like you to introduce yourself, Glenn, and tell everyone who you are and kind of how we connected.
Yeah, my name, first of all, is Glenn Derby. My story is what matters to me today because, um, I lived about 40 some, maybe almost 50 years of just thinking my story was just my story. I didn't think there was any significance to it. I didn't think there was anything that was important about it. It was just me trying to make it through all the crap that I went through. And as I started meeting with different people, they started saying you should really get your story out there, and I started getting pressed by God, and he kept pushing me towards sharing the stuff that I had because it was um, my story was a lot of different things, but the biggest thing it was coming from a place that people, at least I didn't know about it, and it caused me to have all kinds of crazy stuff that happened in my life. And it basically came from what's called complex PTSD. And
Mhm.
trying to navigate in my adult world, in my adult life, I was not able to do it until I figured out how this was affecting my brain. And once I found out, it made all the sense in the world, and my life started to really change. And one of the things that changed was I started going to different conferences and meeting people that are in the business of helping other people. And that's where I heard Wendy speak, and I thought she just had an awesome message. And um, I wanted to get involved in whatever she was doing. And so I ended up not even realizing I was going to get a speaking coach. I hired a speaking coach, which was Wendy, and it was a phenomenal experience. And then, of course, she has this amazing, probably better than TED Talks because this is about real life changes, what
Yeah.
people have done in their life that was significant enough to speak about so that other people that have done the same thing can feel comfortable about what they went through.
Yeah, and you know what's something interesting, Glenn, is like even going through so leading up to One Stories, for those of you who don't know what it is, One Stories is basically a platform like TEDx, like Glenn said, of to get on stage on a big beautiful stage and tell your personal story, right? That tragedy to triumph moment, but also it ties into what you do. Because I have a strong belief that we coach, we teach, we help the people that are kind of a former version of ourselves. And so I wanted to create a platform for them. And there's other aspects involved. It's a visibility package. But included in this is like 6 weeks of coaching where I help you develop that talk. It's a 20-minute talk. And what I appreciate about what you did, Glenn, is because you're not just driven by the how-tos, right? You have God kind of, giving you messages. And so like you had more flexibility on the stage in a way because, you didn't want to just craft this cookie cutter type of fit into the framework of exactly what everyone else is doing. You're like, can I have the flexibility to like, I know what I'm going to talk about. I know my story. Can I just get up on stage and just whatever comes to me? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. So what
Yeah.
was that like for you getting on that stage and just letting it happen?
Well, I've been blessed because I am a former football player. I have been asked a lot of times to speak around different events. So I've spoken in front of thousands of high school kids mostly. Um, but when you get up to speak, some people get stage fright. Some people mess up their words. They mess up things that they're saying. They're trying to get their message out and it doesn't work. And for some reason, I was fortunate enough at one point to hear a guy speak, and he talked about how when you learn to speak from your true self, meaning that you're basically speaking God's words, you
Mhm.
no longer have accountability for what comes out of your mouth because this is what God is intending for you to say. And so I learned that and I started practicing that anytime I got. I also was in, I am a member of sobriety program. And so I did a lot of talking in those areas where I just was talking about the real deal. This is the real truth to what I'm going through. And I would always say a little prayer beforehand, and I'd say, God, these are your words, not mine. Let them help at least one person. And when you start coming from a place of that, you don't feel that nervous. I mean, I know I was a little nervous on stage just because of the the powerful people that I was in front of. Also, when you get on a stage with all the lights and you got video cameras and all that, you
Mhm.
you tend to definitely get a little nervous. But I wasn't nervous about what was coming out. I
Right.
was more nervous just about, am I standing right? Am I doing this right or whatever? So those are things I need to practice on. But what an awesome experience, Wendy. I can't even tell you how,
Oh, wow.
I think about that often of what a great thing you're doing. It's so
Awesome.
cool.
That's and you did a great job on stage too, and yeah, it can be a little jarring to get up on that stage and have these bright lights shining in your face and, you're on this rug, you're supposed to stay on the rug and just the logistics of it, of course,
Yeah, and I don't
you
follow
know?
directions real well. So when you said stay on the rug, I didn't quite follow that to the T.
That's okay, but that's why we have a production team that, they're the professionals, they followed
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
not a problem, but I'm glad it was such a great experience for you,
yeah.
so, of course, like, your story, like you said, here's the difference I think too, and you can tell me how you feel about it, but we all know our stories, right? And like a TEDx is more like memorized, but when stories is different because it's storytelling. And I want people to embrace that. So, what advice would you give like the next group of speakers going through? Because I know they're all in their heads right now about, oh, how do I memorize this? What if I forget where I'm at? Right. But because you're in a unique position where you let it just kind of flow through, right? So, what advice would you give the speakers that are going to be hitting the stage next Friday that are nervous about what if I forget where I'm at and I didn't memorize it?
I think the biggest thing that I can say to those speakers is just think in your head that you're going to use your story to help one person. And that's all you're doing is helping one. You're not helping thousands, you're not helping millions, you're helping one. And just think about you talking to one person. Like when I was up there, I was trying, I saw you guys a little bit through the lights, but I was trying to focus on one person, and they didn't have a face to the body. It was just
Hmm.
one person that needed my story to help them have a better day, a better week, a better month. And if I could use my story and my change and what changed my life, um, in order to help one person, that's all that matters. If there's more, great, but
Right.
it
That's
only
awesome.
really matters if one person gets it. So don't put pressure like you're going to become the next Tony Robbins or whoever. Just be somebody who is out to help one person, and that will make it much easier. And if you mess up like I did, I messed up a couple times. Not really messed up, I just didn't go the way I thought I was going to go. um, and I panicked at the end because the time runs out really fast. At
Yep.
least it did for me. So there was stuff I left out, but all the feedback I've gotten was good.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what I left out. And everybody makes mistakes. We are human. Um,
Yep.
I believe he loves me unconditionally, so I can do no wrong. So it really just get up there and have fun. I really
Yeah.
had fun. It was kind of a surreal experience, and it was cool. And I at times I would picture myself in a huge stadium with thousands and thousands of people in there, and at other times there was that one person, and just have
Yeah.
fun with it. That's
Yeah.
the
And
biggest thing.
I love that you talked about just talking to that one person because really in the coaching too, I kind of stress that because that helps you with the nerves. Like just imagine you're speaking to just one person, not an audience. And of course, we stream it live. And I don't know about you, but I forgot about the streaming because you don't really see that camera that's streaming live. And the audience, for anyone who doesn't know, the audience is just people that are it's invite only for the in-person audience. It's friends and family of people who are invited to support the speakers.
Yeah.
So it's less intimidating, especially for some of these very personal stories that people are sharing. Having that audience, if we would have had 200 people there, there's some speakers that probably would have like looked around the curtain like, no, thank you, not doing it. You know, but to
I
your point,
Yeah, I,
go
I
ahead.
really liked the one person I did because I had way back when someone told me, well, picture everyone naked. I'm like, all I'm
Nope.
gonna do is laugh. That's not a good idea, you know? So I
Yeah.
was really glad that guy said, just pick one person. And that really
Yep.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, and because you're just trying to affect one person instead of trying to have all this pressure of, "Oh gosh, if I don't change the world in this one talk, then I failed." Right? So it's
Exactly.
about the one person. So
Yeah.
tell everyone a little bit about what you're doing with keynote speaking, right? Because obviously you're already working with youth, on the subject you're talking about. So where do you wanna speak and whose lives do you wanna change?
Well, my audience I figured out is, high achieving couples, it's athletes, it's people that have struggled with addictions, with recovery, families that have addicts in their family that, they're really struggling what to do with and, maybe need an intervention type situation. But I really, my passion is to get on stage, share my story, try and help others weave through this childhood trauma that causes so much damage. And it's not intentional damage. These most of the caregivers of these children, they're not intending to hurt you. They just don't know any better, and they have their own wounds, and they're living out of their own difficulties with working their brains. Um, I do have, through you and through another person that I work with, got to know a guy named John Taylor, and he's helping me with speaker reel and putting some really cool stuff together. So
Mhm.
my hope is I get on the big stage. That is my goal. Until then, I am coaching. I do have clients that I work with and help them through some difficult relationships because believe it or not, childhood trauma can really affect negatively the person you pick to be in a relationship, the place you work, and the
Mhm.
people that are at that job. There's so many places that this can really affect in a negative way. Um,
Yeah.
and once you fix it, it's amazing how much easier life is and how much easier relationships are. And
Right.
like I said, it's the one thing that really has changed my life for the better. And it's just been recently in the past 4 or 5 years. So,
Wow.
um, I'd like
Yeah.
to see people get it earlier so they don't have to go through all the pain that I did.
And it's exactly it. You're kind of reaching your hand back to people who are in the situation you were, in the troubles and the trauma, the things that you went through to help them. So again, like they can get through it quicker. They don't have to go through as many hurdles as you. So in doing your one story, right? Like there's the stage, there's the book, the podcast, all the things. Um, do you think that lends to your credibility now? Like as you get on more stages and people are trying to book you, do you feel like that's going to lend to your credibility?
I do. I equate it kind of similarly to years ago. I had had quite a bit of sobriety, and I was working in a scenario where a counselor asked me. They came up to me and said, "Hey, I got this client, and they have a drug and alcohol issue, and I'm kind of struggling with it." And I said, "Well," I said, "Are you someone who's had those issues yourself?" And they said, "No." And I said, I'm not saying this to be mean, but I would probably recommend they find somebody that's been through drug and alcohol issues. I
Yeah.
find that I relate to people much better who have gone through the same kind of stuff that I have because I don't really believe people when they tell me, well, you got to do this, this, and this, and they've never done it. It's like when I played football and I'd have a coach that never played offensive line, and they tell me to do this and they do that, and I'd look at it and I would go, "It's 6'6". You want me to do that? That's what the little
Right.
running backs are doing. You're crazy." And it really leads to the belief of the person if they've been through it themselves. And
Yeah.
they can say, "This is what I did, and trust me, I was right where you were, and it's so painful, but you can get through it." And I know you can because I did it myself.
Right. And that's so true. In fact, I had a family member tell me that too, same scenario, going through rehab. And my younger daughter is going to be, she's a psychology major and she's finishing her master's this year. And he said, no offense, but, especially when it comes to drug and alcohol counseling, like, I couldn't work with somebody like her because she doesn't have a drug and alcohol problem. She never has. She never
Right.
drank.
Yep.
So having that relatability, so if someone wants to work with you, they know you've been there, and by you getting up on stage and being vulnerable, we talked about this in coaching,
Yeah.
especially for a man, you're, a ex football player, not ex, but you know what I mean, like a former football player of your stature, talking about vulnerability and complex PTSD. There's a relatability factor for these young men in college and high school that are dealing with trauma and other issues and anger
Yeah.
problems and so for them to hear you say that, what an impact that makes.
That's why I believe God has pushed me to do this because, if it was up to me, there's no way I'd be doing this.
Yeah,
And if it was up to me, there's no way I would have went through that pain to
right,
figure out why I did the things I did. I wanted to be that macho man. I wanted to be that man that, never had any misunderstanding of what a man is, and it just doesn't work that way. And
right.
I hope that me sharing some of my pain, which is very vulnerable and it's scary. This book coming out here pretty soon. I've definitely had some nights where I wake up in the middle of the night going, "Oh man, did I make a mistake?"
Yeah,
But I'm not. I know. I trust God. He has a plan. He knows. He's got me.
yeah,
One of the best things that I heard is once you start really following your passion or what you're really supposed to do, you're going to all of a sudden get a whole bunch of enemies, and you're going to get a bunch of people that are going to attack you, and they're going to send hits at you. And
yeah,
Brad Lee says it really well. He goes, if you don't have people unfollowing you and hating you, you're not doing a good job. And so
yep.
that really helped because that's like, okay, so I'm not going to pay attention to those people. I'm probably what's happening is I'm striking a nerve with them because
Mhm.
there's some truth going to them. And that's
Yeah,
how I look at it.
yeah. That's so very true. And what's interesting is you, John Taylor, and Sean Myers are in a very unique position. You are the only three men who
We're
have
the
ever
only
done One
ones.
Stories because we've shifted now to a women's platform,
I
right?
saw that. I'm
So
like, I
you
must have done something wrong because she's going all women
no,
now.
no,
Damn it.
no, not at all. Just by just nature. I mean, this next group just filled with women. I didn't even have any
Yeah.
men apply for this next one, so it just was a natural flow.
Yeah.
So like, but you
No,
guys
it
have the
makes it makes sense. I'm just giving you a hard time.
yeah, no, but but I think it's unique because now you guys have like the title, right? We're the only three men who have done When Stories,
We
so
are. We're
it's
the
pretty.
we're the guys. Yeah.
And not
So
to say we won't ever hold like a special one, where we have some. I'm not ruling that out, so it might be a
well,
chance
maybe
down the
you do
line.
one
But
for all men. I mean,
right,
that
right.
there's a good I think there's a good reason. Like we're doing a couple of the coaches and I are going to do a retreat this fall, and it's going to be for all women.
Oh, oh, wow.
And
Okay,
there's a time and a place for different
right,
genders, and I think all women, there's nothing wrong with that. All men, nothing wrong with that. And co-ed, there's nothing wrong. It's just it
right.
is what it is, and it's whatever the season is that's
Yeah, and
going
that's
on. So I don't
yeah,
take any offense to it. I was actually proud that I was one of the guys, and I really am very proud. And I think you're going to be so successful that it's going to be even more proud for me to have been part of the first one.
yeah.
And
Well,
what
I
a great
appreciate
group
that.
of people we had. I mean,
Right?
I'm still friends with a bunch of them, and it was really a cool experience. Anyone out there that's thinking about speaking, or anyone out there that has a story to share, oh my God, get a hold of Wendy. You got to do this. It's a great experience.
I appreciate that. And you said something too that I didn't even foresee happening. Like when I put this all together, is the community that builds,
Yeah,
right? The people that go through this experience together, it's almost like you're bonded now, and I
yeah,
see that on social media, everyone supporting one another. This same group, this next group, and Stephanie's watching right now. She's on this call. She's speaking next week, and I'm already seeing them all connecting, right? And there's this kind of community that builds because everyone's sharing these very personal stories and giving each other feedback and support. It's a really cool kind of side effect I didn't even think
yeah.
about
Three,
happening when I put
three,
this
three
together.
out of the four women that were doing this retreat is from your. I met them at your deal, so
Yeah, that's wild. So
it's
real quick,
cool.
so Glenn's story is in the first volume of the One Stories anthology. And also, so go grab that. But also, Glenn is going to be having his own book, which I'm really excited about. Do you have is there a perspective like time frame when that's going to come out?
I believe it's with the editor right now. He
Okay.
he basically said he believes it will be done before May 1st.
Oh,
So whether
okay.
that means it's available to be bought on Amazon on May 1st or it's just the first copy, I don't know. I've never done this before.
Okay.
Uh, Complete new experience, but he is pretty confident it's not going to take a real long time. So
Cool.
I would say in the next month or two, and I haven't even picked a title yet. I've got a couple I'm running through, but
Yeah.
you can go to my website, which is Glenn two N's Derby DERBY um, .com, and I will definitely be having it on there. So,
Yeah.
and you can get a hold of me. I got all my information's on that website, so you can get me there. It's going
Hmm.
to be I've had a couple people read the book and it's been nothing but good, positive. They're all like,
Awesome.
you really you were believable. Your story matters, as you say. I mean, I
Yep.
just love that saying that you say is, my story mattered, and
Hmm.
I think it
Yeah.
will matter to more than one person. So that's really, really cool.
That's awesome. So we'll be watching for your book to launch, and obviously we're here to support that as well. So yeah, head out to Glenn's website. It's a very shiny, very nice looking website, by the way. One of the other One Story speakers built
It
it,
was
Kristen
from one.
Atkins.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Shout out
Yeah,
to Kristen. So that's the collaboration stuff that's happening too on the site is great too.
it
But yeah,
is.
the website looks phenomenal. I imagine the book information will be up there once it's ready. So follow him, and
Well,
also
and
we'll
you
tag.
also were able to get me to be, you're the first one to get me to be a author, and your book has been very popular with a lot of people that I've given it to, and
Awesome.
that's on the website too. I mean, I think that's an awesome book right there.
Yeah, and yeah, the One Stories anthology, the first volume, there's so many great stories in there. I mean, this is what I love. I love
Powerful.
people's stories. Yeah, very
It's
powerful.
it's
So, and yours
powerful, and
included.
that's what I love about all of this is it's a power of people in a really troubled world right now, getting out, trying to help people in the best way
Yeah,
possible by sharing their stories.
100%. 100%. Well, thank you so much for coming on and letting me
Thank
interview you
you.
quick.
Yes.
I appreciate it. So everyone who's listening, go out and go to Glenn's website, Glenn GLENN Derby DERBY. We'll tag him here on the different networks we're on. We're streaming right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll make sure we tag him so you can follow him on his social media channels as well, so you can watch for his new book. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks again, Glenn. Awesome
Thank you
talking
so
to you.
much, Wendy. You're awesome. I